Hey everybody, it's Rajesh here.
And Tane here.
Welcome to our podcast, Baskets of Knowledge, Chats with a Difference. In our podcast, we invite guests from around the country and around the world to talk about how they got to where they're at the moment. It's about a journey, it's about an experience, it's about their life. Kia ora koutou, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Baskets of Knowledge. I've lost count of the number of episodes this is, and depending on when you're listening to it, it might be a first one, it might be a 90th one, but whoever we are, we really acknowledge you for listening to our podcast. Today is an important day for us here in New Zealand. It is election day. When I say today is October the 14th, which is our election day. So things are going to be changing around the country today. If you're in New Zealand, hopefully you have voted. If you haven't voted, slap on the hand if you cannot vote. As you can see, it's only me today. Once again, Tane is away doing some pretty cool things with his rugby coaching, so he should join us in the next week or so, hopefully, or the next podcast. So before we get started, as always, I'm going to talk about a learning that I've had this week here. This week I was watching a show, and the line that really stuck out for me was in the show they had the line that you can take your time, but make sure you don't waste your time. And that really stuck out for me because, a lot of times we're told about, hey, it's good to be patient, and that's awesome. It's good to be patient, but there's one resource that we don't have in life, that is time. So it's good to be patient, but don't rely on patience because you're not going to go anywhere else. But also, conversely, don't try and rush into things and make mistakes. Mistakes are okay, but don't rush into things and go, oh, I'm doing it because I don't have enough time. So there's a fine line between patience and rushing into things. But again, time is that resource that never comes back. So when you think about time, think about how you want to spend your time, whether it is with family, whether it's with friends, whether it is doing work, with your pets. That's up to you. No one's going to tell you what to do. This is something that you, with your values, are going to think about. And that segues really nicely because I have the amazing pleasure to spend the next however long with a wonderful young person. As always, we scour the country and the world to bring people that we think were amazing. And those of you that listen to us regularly, we think everyone is amazing, but we can't speak to everybody. We'd love to, but we can't because we don't get paid for this year. If you want to pay us and sponsor us, we'll do this all day. But until then, we are just going to go one person a week. And this week, I'm really privileged and honored and blessed to spend the next 45 minutes to an hour with the amazing Lola Fisher. Welcome to our podcast, Lola.
Kia ora. Thank you so much for having me.
No worries, it's our pleasure. When I say I mean Tane's as well. He's really gutted he couldn't be here today, but hey, he'll have to listen to the podcast like everybody else. So Lola, before we get started into our conversation, do you want to tell the listeners a bit about who you are and what you're doing at this point in your life on October the 14th?
Totally. So my name is Lola Fisher. I am 15 years old and I'm from Wanganui. I, at the moment, am the CEO and co-founder of Create Happy Media, which is a digital media outlet for rangatahi in Aotearoa. I am also on my local youth council, kind of floating a Generation Hope ambassador for Save the Children. And yeah, just really passionate about working in my community and also uplifting the voices of young people.
Beautiful. And that's a really humble way to talk about what you actually do, but it's a great segue into so many things that we can talk about today. So let's talk about the first thing, I'm Create Happy. Where did that actually start from? You're 15 years old. Most 15-year-olds are not doing this yet. When I was 15 years old, what was I doing? I was playing sports, trying to avoid school. Who knows what I was doing actually, but I was not creating. I didn't have a company that I was creating. So what is the inspiration behind this if we go back into where it all started?
Totally. And I feel like what you just said there is like a really good example because this generation is so overlooked almost. Gen Z are so capable and so hungry for change. But we often, people say, oh, when I was your age, I was doing this and this. And what I say to that is that the times have changed and Gen Z is leading that change. And so, yeah, we started back in, March 2022. So it's a little over a year and a half ago now. And it came out of a photography program called Click Happy, which is run by a charitable trust called Everybody is a Treasure. And this photography program was co-designed with young people and the founder of the charitable trust, Mandy Lynn. And these young people were really frustrated about the way they were being represented in the media. And so this was back in 2018, so it's kind of jumping along the timeline a bit. But back in 2018, Click Happy, the photography program, started, and the young people were frustrated about how they were being represented in the media. The specific example that was given is that they were from South Auckland, and a couple of them were in like a popular dance crew at the time that was going viral on TikTok and Instagram. And the media picked up on it, and they wrote they did a story about these young people in the dance crew. And when they published the story, it said they were from Auckland, right? So these South Auckland kids were Aucklanders. But just a week later, a fight broke out in one of the schools there, and the media again picked up on that and wrote a story about it. And when it was published, they read they saw the story, and the story said they were from South Auckland. So the Aucklanders got the credit when they did something good, but the South Aucklanders got bashed when they did something bad. And that really stirred up a lot of frustration and anger in these young people. And so Mandy, the founder of the trust, took that and said, okay, how can I help you express yourself and show people that you are more than fights in South Auckland, and you are as worthy as this dance crew, and you are from South Auckland. So that started in 2018. And then you fast forward to kind of 2021, and I'm doing this photography program with Mandy. It's all gone online.
Can I stop you for a sec? Can I say what inspired you to get into that there? What is here? You just jumped into it. Why did you get inspired and get into this program here?
Yeah. So started in March 2020.
Yes, the best year ever. Yes. Yep.
Yeah, middle of lockdown, and I am bored as heck. And and Mum says to me, "Hey, look, there's this photography program," and we had done a couple of things with Mandy in the past. I was like, "Cool, let's do it." And it ended up being, I think it was around 6 weeks long, from memory, and kind of just challenges every day, learning a little bit about photography. And that's not my personal like passion, really, photography, but I do really enjoy it, and it's kind of like a hobby almost. So I jumped on there and thought about all these like composition and juxtaposition and all the cool photography things. And then in 2021, Mandy invited me back. She was running another summer program over the 2021 to 2022 summer, and she said, "Do you want to be a mentor and help all these young people grow into a space that you have?" And I said, "Sure, let's do it." Little did I know that was gonna kickstart something really huge in my life. So in March 2022, we were having these conversations in our online chats, and by this point it was still online. We had a couple of in-person meetups, but they weren't really big. And keep in mind, there were around 600 people that had gone through this program.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was quite huge. And we were kind of just chatting about where Click Happy came from and where it was going. People were they were frustrated about how they were being represented. And so we were on this Zoom call one day, talking about how we can expand Click Happy and like have youth voice amplified in Aotearoa. And then someone suggested, why don't we just start a magazine? And I was like, let's do it. And that's how it started. And we gathered around 7 other co-founders, so it was quite a large co-founding team. And yeah, by June 2022 we had our first edition. Yeah.
Amazing. I love that. And I'm gonna go through a couple of tangents here. So I think the first tangent we're going to speak about is the representation. You spoke about Auckland versus South Auckland. And for listeners out there that don't know about New Zealand, Auckland is the biggest city. It's not the capital, it's the biggest city in New Zealand. And it's got North Shore, East, West, South Auckland. And like every big city in the world, this could be Los Angeles, Melbourne, London, wherever, there's some parts of those big cities where they're given a bad rap for whatever reason. It could be, who knows what it is. And for context, in in Auckland, South Auckland, is given a bad rap for the incorrect reasons. So when Lola's speaking about, the bad rap that was given to South Auckland, but the amazingness is given to Auckland, this is why people are getting fired up, because they're being when things go bad, we have the bad label. I'm using that in quotation marks for those that can't see. And when things go good, quotation marks, we go to Auckland. So, and I guess, talking about you living in Wanganui, that happens to you as well, right? Because Wanganui is seen as a place where bad things happen, right? So how does that relate to you when you thought about, hey, wait a minute, if we just step back a bit for a second and think of Wanganui, did that resonate with you as well?
Definitely. I think Wanganui has had a bad rep in the last, kind of 10 years or so. But if you look at the last 2 years, you can see, and if you go to Wanganui and you walk into the main city, you will see the beauty that Wanganui holds. And I don't always love my hometown. Like, I'm going to be honest, it's not my favorite place to be sometimes, but there are beautiful people and beautiful places, and the amount of gorgeous art that comes out of it, and amazing people, and the things that they create is insane. And more people are recognizing that, I think, as the house prices are skyrocketing in Wanganui, and people are just buying up because it's the place to be. Kind of the new Wellington almost, which is really cool. But yeah, definitely, I think we are in the running for most beautiful small city in Aotearoa. So yeah, it's getting there.
That's awesome. It's always good about context. It's not that you don't like your city, it's just opportunities. There's different opportunities, right? It's just the way the world is. And I also want to talk about how you spoke about something that's really, really profound about, in my time, this is what happened here. But the world has changed dramatically. As you think, if I think about when I was 15 years old, there was no context for a conversation to happen over Zoom. That did not exist, right? But for Gen Z right now, the world has changed quite dramatically, which is why you actually, wait a minute, I'm now empowered to make these decisions and these choices here because of all the information out there. So I love the way you put that there, because just because you're a certain age doesn't mean that you have to do a certain thing.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think we're moving into an age where young people are more and more respected, but also less and less respected in some aspects. Like, I think about tokenism, which is like a word that comes up a lot when we're talking about youth in these kind of spaces, creating their own change, bringing seats to the decision-making tables themselves. And I think, there's definitely a bigger push for young people to be at these tables, but also it's like you're not quite at the same level. The tokenism is definitely a real thing at the point that we're at, and so for Create Happy, it's important that it's run by youth for youth, and so ages 10 to 20. Like, we're not adults here.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I like that, because that's not, I think the tokenism / the tick box exercise is across any minority group. Whether you're a young person, whether you're an African person, American, Asian, Maori, Pacifica, gender neutral, you just tick a box, and then like you said before, is you being on the table just a tick box exercise, or is it actually how your voice is there because they want to hear your voice? And nobody knows that, right? I mean, only the people at the tables are going to know that, whether their voice is being heard or their opinions are being actually valued. But hey, the fact that you get the table is always a good start. That's always a good start. But now we've got to make that table shake, right? Yeah. Got to make that table shake. So let's go back to let's go to Create Happy, right? So I love the fact that this idea was done over a Zoom conversation. So you order on the country, Zoom conversation, boom, happens. So that was in March, and then in June, your first publication goes out. What is that like for you? Because it was a very short time period, within 4 months it was done. What is that like for you, seeing it happen as all your co-founders as well?
So intense, honestly. So intense. So our first edition, I would say to people, if you go back and look, you can see the progression that Create Happy has made. And our first edition, I've kind of been updating it a little bit lately, but our first edition has so many spelling mistakes, and the design isn't perfect, but what is perfect is that we created something incredible, and it started there. And I think, yeah, it's important that we don't just, like, nothing that you put out into the world has to be perfect. It can just be done.
100%.
And Create Happy, definitely the first edition was not perfect. But it was amazing to see it all come together, and stressful. So we met, myself, Mandy, and one other co-founder met at Mandy's house, kind of just before it all started, and we're like, okay, well, what are our values? How can we make this like national? How we, what are the logistics of this? What does making a magazine really mean? And so we had that conversation quite early on in the piece, which was really awesome, and identified our values and all these things. And then from there, it was really just a whirlwind of these conversations and interviews and writing. I had no clue what I was doing, no idea. And then it released on the 25th of June, which was a few days late. And that was my birthday, so I was like, oh my God,
what a great present.
oh my gosh. Which was like a really great birthday present, but also I was a little bit stressed. But as you are with everything, so came out on June the 25th, 2022, and it was a gift to the world and also a very stressful point in my life. But yeah, it was so amazing and beautiful.
I love the premise of that whole quote right there. Done is better than perfect. I think there's so many people out there that wait for perfection before they do anything, and they get hampered by that. That if you had waited for perfection, you would still be waiting. Doing nothing today, you'd still be waiting. I think this is a message to anyone out there that's listening. Whatever it is, whether it's writing an article, taking a photo, going on a trip, planning, whatever it is, just put it out there. Put it out there. Done is better than or whatever you need to do. Because how many times do you get caught by perfectionism and we end up doing nothing? And then I love the fact that you spoke about, hey, it was your birthday. Was that by design? Or was that just happening?
No.
Did that happen?
No, it wasn't. So we were supposed to release on the 21st of June. So it matches up with the equinox and solstice. Yep. So March 21st, June 21st, September 21st, and December 21st. Kind of roughly. So it was not by design, but we were kind of like a little bit rushed, and the design wasn't quite finished, so we just pushed it out into my birthday. And so kind of at around midnight on the 25th of June, I think it released. Someone was up at night putting it on our website and making it happen.
Really. And what was your role? Because you said before, you did the Click Happy stuff, which is great. You're becoming a mentor, and you said photography wasn't really you do it, but it wasn't your jam. When you started working with Create Happy, what was your thing? What was your, obviously you're the co-founder, but where did you go? This makes me might get excited. This gets me pumping. Which part of the whole program?
So when we started, I obviously had no clue what I was doing. And so I kind of just assumed the role of editor. And that meant I was kind of managing a lot of the logistics. I was also doing the social media marketing and kind of covering a quite wide base of Create Happy. And so until when did I finish? March in 2023, so March this year. I handed it over to 2 co-editors. But yeah, I was kind of just making it up as I went, and the role was called co-editor, but I did a lot of other things on the side. But then around March, we kind of decided, look, we want to be bigger, and Create Happy is going to go on to do awesome things. So we're going to rebrand and call ourselves Create Happy Media, and put roles in there like CEO, COO, the website designer, kind of these sort of things that you see in a company. And so I assumed the role of CEO, which means that now I'm not so focused on the magazine as such, but more on cultivating the experience for people, and onboarding new journalists and supporting our editorial team and helping them, teaching people things, and also kind of starting to begin our podcast, which is going to happen hopefully very soon. We've been saying that for the last year, but that's kind of our next step for Create Happy. So yeah, that was kind of my role in things.
Beautiful, because as we know with life, as you change and growth is really important. So again, if you hadn't done anything, nothing collectively would have been done. So it's awesome to see the growth and get that podcast going. I mean, you've got Arti right there. You can get her on, and you've got some fantastic people there. What is it like? What is it like for you getting? So what I love about, because I've jumped into your website, I've had a look at your stuff over the last few months, which is pretty amazing. My question for you though is how hard or how easy was it for you to find people to get involved? And the reason why I say hard is because you've got to say no to some people, because it sounds so amazing, and saying no is always the hardest thing I find. You know, when I had run projects, I'm like, oh, this is an amazing person, but say no to them. What is that? Did you have that problem, or you like, actually, there's so few people, I'm just gonna take anybody that jumps on?
Definitely at this point, yeah, we are just taking anyone on board, and I think we are in December due to hit 50 people on our
Amazing.
crew, which is huge. And so we currently have around 43, but we have kind of people lined up to join us. Yeah, we haven't really said no, and I think that is definitely one of the huge things about Create Happy, is that it's there to support your voice and have your voice heard, and to tell the stories of other young people. And so saying no seems limiting for that reason. And so we do support people to rewrite the articles, or switch around some things if we don't think it is at its full potential. But there's only been like one or two instances where we've ever said no to an article, and we've never said no to someone joining us. And yeah, I feel like it is a huge responsibility to always say yes, but at the same time, it is what makes Create Happy. Yeah, if we didn't say yes to everything, we might not be here today. Because
Totally.
we don't have a huge platform yet, and so saying yes means we get to grow that platform.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm going to shift focus just a little bit and talk about Lola now, not Create Happy. So Lola, you are doing this here. Then are you at school at the same time? Are you still a young person navigating all the other things that a young person has got to navigate while they are running a company?
So funny story actually. That you
I love funny
mentioned school.
stories. Yes.
So we're in kind of June 2022, and the magazine releases, and I realized that school isn't working for me. I'm in year 10 at the time. And I've been in the school system since year 6. So I started out in my life homeschooling until I hit year 6, which is the last year of primary school. And I said, look, I think I need to go to school now for my social well-being, and also to learn like all these different things that my parents couldn't teach me as a homeschooler. And then I stuck it out until halfway through year 10, and then I said, you know what, this isn't for me anymore. High school isn't serving me. It's not really teaching me what I need to learn, and I have the passion to learn. And so on July the 8th, I left school for good, and I'm now a full-time homeschooler. And I'm not studying with correspondence or like any of the online schools currently. I'm really just kind of, at this point, it's about finding my place in the world, and that means working with Create Happy, and that means working in my youth council. It means making connections in other cities. And I think, that was quite a pivotal part of my life, definitely, deciding to just leave and not come back. And not many people can do that, and I'm in a really privileged space to be able to say, hey, it's not working for me. Let's do something different. So I guess I'm not struggling or not dealing with the same issues that kind of your average teenager in New Zealand is in terms of school. But I am kind of growing into different spaces that I wouldn't be if I was at school right now. Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. I asked that question because life is happening as well. So create media is part of your life, and obviously leaving school, although you make it sound easy, would have been a pretty huge decision to make for you and your family at that point in time. And now it's probably the right thing that you've done. And, you know, there's no judgment for anybody here. You got to go with what's best for you. But I guess this is where family becomes important, right? So I'm guessing your family have been amazing and supportive in this amazing endeavor that you're doing, because I think support is important. You can't do anything by yourself.
Definitely. Yeah, I definitely could not leave school without my parents. And my dad owns his own business, so I work with him, and he supported me to like get jobs and learn about the business side of things in his life. But yeah, definitely my parents are a huge supporting factor in what I do, and they are quite lenient with what I do. They're not super strict about, you know, I go to Wellington quite often, stay with my family, stay with grandparents, sort of thing. So without that support from them, I would not be here today. Definitely.
Yeah, I think it's important, not just for you, but I think it's important if anybody to realize that when you're trying to do anything in life, you can try to do things by yourself, but when you do things by yourself, it becomes really, really challenging. And, you know, if you find your support crew, whether it's your family, for some people it might not be the family, it might be a friend, it might be a business partner, it might be somebody else. But I think it's important, you know, as we have this conversation, as you said before, when you had your light bulb moment for Create Happy, when you had your light bulb moment for Bank Farm Click Happy, you know, when you had those ones, it wasn't you by yourself. It was people around you that got that going. And talking about people going around, let's talk about how you got into the youth council. What was your inspiration to get into the youth council? How did that all happen? How did that unveil itself?
Definitely, it was another one of those things where mum was like, you should do this. But I had also attended some meetings when I was like quite a lot younger,
Yes.
to kind of see what it was about. And the youth council in Wanganui is kind of quite a big part of council, actually. So we kind of support council to understand, listen, and consider the perspectives of young people. But also we've had quite a couple of counsellors go from being a youth counsellor to being like an actual counsellor, which is very cool. And we have a lot of support from council in that. Yeah, so mum was just like, why don't you sign up for this? And I was like, cool, sounds cool. Make some friends, learn some things, see if it's for me. And that was in around May last year. So it's been a
Yeah.
little over a year, but yeah.
And that's really, really cool. I love the fact that in Wanganui itself, that the youth council is a big part of the whole council. And in some places, actually, there's some places where, you know, in Kapiti as well, they're pretty massive. In the smaller areas, they're really massive, in Wellington maybe. But it's pretty awesome to have you there doing your thing. And as you're doing that, there, let's talk about getting involved with Girl Boss. How did that all happen? How did the whole Girl Boss, you know, because there's so many things, so many fingers that your hands are in. So many pies that your hands are in. So let's talk about Girl Boss. How did you get involved with that? And, you know, you've done some pretty cool stuff with them as well.
Totally. So we're kind of in, where are we now?
We're going
August,
all over the place,
early
right?
August last year. Yeah. Let's float back to there. Early August last year, and my mentor Mandy, the founder of the trust, nominated me for a Girl Boss Award, which is run by Alexia Hilbertito, who is the founder of Girl Boss New Zealand. She's an amazing person. Totally get her on a podcast if you can. And she kind of has created this platform where they support young women in STEM. And so I was nominated for this award, ended up getting the award, and then in late September went and received it in Auckland, which was so amazing and incredible to have that recognition for. So that was for my work with Create Happy, and to have that recognition and to have people see us, because it wasn't just about me, because obviously Create Happy is not just me, it's everyone who contributes. And so yeah, and we got some media coverage for that, which was amazing, to kind of get out there into the world. And then yeah, kind of worked with Alexia and the sponsors of my award, which was Spark New Zealand, and they're so awesome, and they've supported Create Happy in lots of ways. and did a couple of Girl Boss courses along with it, which is like an online course where you learn about kind of these different areas. And so I was in a finance course, which was amazing. Yeah, so Girl
That's
Boss has been a huge part of Create Happy, definitely. Yeah.
And I love the fact that, you are, first of all, not just nominated, but also acknowledged for the work that Create Happy is doing. And as you said, it's not about you, but everything starts with somebody, right? Things start with somebody, and then they create a lot of things. So, you and your team are the face of Create Happy at the moment, but obviously there's so many faces there that do some amazingly cool things. But without you, there's no glue. It's got to be glue, right? And you're really glue, so which is really, really cool. Um, but as you start doing these programs here, do you start realizing that, hey, Create Happy can change the way, as you move on? Does it change your perspective on, like a bit like when before we jumped on the podcast, I spoke about how we had our vision at the start of this podcast and we've changed it dramatically. Have you noticed that happening with you as you have gone on these courses, spoken to people? Have you gone, oh, wait a minute, we had this idea, now let's go this, or we had this idea, let's go this?
Definitely. So a huge focus of Create Happy in the beginning, coming from Click Happy, was photography and kind of well-being, are the two kind of main core things mixed into Click Happy. And so it did really start from there. Photography and well-being were the two kind of major points of Create Happy in the June edition last year. And we've definitely evolved from then. And it's kind of more about the interviews now, about finding young people that are doing incredible things, talking to them about their journeys. Yeah, and also just kind of some tips and tricks along the way. Articles about how to deal with procrastination, or what it means if you're dealing with anxiety, and how you can support yourself or your peers with that. Those sort of things have kind of, that's really morphed into Create Happy. But also, we did start as a magazine, and now we're moving into a podcast. So I think, growth is a huge part of what we do, and it is ever growing. And we're about to officially become, we're kind of moving into a space where we're becoming a company officially, with like a board, and we're going to get a B Corp certification. So some pretty huge things coming up for Create Happy, and it started from this magazine that was published at midnight on my birthday, that had lots of spelling mistakes. So yeah.
Bring it up. Beautiful, beautiful. That's so cool, because like you said, growth is part of life, and if you don't grow, you just stagnate. Talking about growth, though, I'm going to come back to Lola as a human being. So you've spoken about all these amazing things here, but I want to talk about, as a person, what have been the challenges for you as Lola, not just going through Create Happy, but just as a young person, as you're navigating this crazy world that we live in at the moment. What has been some things that have really, you go, oh, this has been pretty hard for you? Or maybe there's nothing. Or maybe there's nothing. Maybe like, actually, life is cruising. This is great. What are you talking about? There's no challenges. It's amazing.
I guess just being a teenager.
Yeah.
Like, life as teenagers is not cruisy. Definitely, and there are ups and downs, and fights with your parents, and fallouts with your friends. And I think in some ways, leaving school helped me, or almost forced me, to just mature quite quickly, and grow up and out of those kind of ways of being. And I still fight with my parents. I still get into arguments with people. I'm still like a grumpy teenager sometimes. But
what, you're a human, Lola? You're a human?
Yeah.
Stop it. You're a human? No ways.
And so I think that Create Happy, and just how my life has gone in the last kind of 3 years, has really forced me to look outside of, it's not just me. And as teenagers, that's kind of your sole focus, is that, like, often the world just revolves around you. And so moving into these spaces, I've noticed a real shift in how I engage with people and react to things, which is really fascinating. And almost like I'm not even really hanging out with teenagers anymore. It's kind of moved into the space where I'm with adults quite a lot, and talking about like big world issues and things like that. And yeah, like youth council and things, like just kind of I don't know what's the word for it, like a bit snobby kind of areas sometimes, which is really interesting to come at from a perspective of a youth. Yeah.
I love that because you're a human, and we have to acknowledge that, and you've done some pretty cool things. But hey, you all have emotions. We can't get away the whole time. And I love what you said that as a young person, people, it's all about me, but not just young people. Sometimes humans just live in it's all about me, and until you you have a mentor or a coach, or life happens where you go, actually, yeah, it's not just about me. I work in another space as a coach, and in my coaching space, a lot of my conversations are about, hey, let's get out of my head and let's not focus about me. Let's think about you in the space of the world. You are part of a world, and the world is part of you. So you got to take both into context.
Yeah, for sure.
And which is quite hard sometimes. It's quite hard. And sometimes it's very confronting because you go, wait, it's all about me. It's my life. It's the way I want to live my life. But actually, like, wait a minute, the way you live your life has an effect on other people, not just you. And it's very hard. It's very hard. It's not easy. But until you go, hey, wait a minute, that is a way to go. Then that's pretty cool. Again, I heard another quote yesterday. I love these quotes. It was really quite profound. The quote I heard yesterday was, "We all live two lives." And the first life we live is just normal, and the real life happens when we realize we only have one life. That just blew my mind. I was like, wow, wait a minute, we all live two lives. I was like, this is quite crazy. And when I think about that, I'm like, wow. And when we realize you only have one life, then the whole perspective of life just changes dramatically. Yeah. But sometimes it happens when you're 15 years old. Sort of makes sense. Sometimes it happens when you are 60 years old. There's no right or wrong time when it happens, but if it happens, that's amazing. And as we go forward, now you've got Click Happy, you've got Create Happy, you've got all these cool things happening in your life. If we take that away from you for a second, again, I'm taking away that identity, and I'm taking Lola again. What is one thing that really drives you? So you spoke about young people and passion and big topics. What is Lola's big topic? So some people it's climate change, sustainability. Some people it's poverty. Some people it's neurodiversity. What is Lola's thing today at this point in time?
Yeah, it's a big question, and I
love big questions. I love big questions.
Yeah,
this is great.
Well, I love big questions too.
Yeah.
And yeah, working in these spaces has taken me to places where I never imagined I'd be, and things I never imagined I'd be passionate about. But you take those things away, and I am left still trying to find what drives Lola. And yeah, I'm so passionate about uplifting the voices of young people and having our voices heard and bringing these seats to the table. But I also still don't really know what drives me. And that's something I'm really figuring out as I move with these things that we've created. Like what does it actually mean to be Lola? I don't know. No clue. And I guess, yeah, I'm kind of at a point in my life where I have no idea, and I'm still figuring that out. But I have some things I'm passionate about, and that comes out in Create Happy, like having our voices heard and celebrating that. But yeah.
I think it's pretty clear what your passion is right there. Your passion is basically getting young people's voices heard. Young people's voices heard, whatever the voice is, and as opposed to who Lola is, that answer will come later on in life. There's no, and I wanted to talk about that because I work with lots of youth, and they're like, oh, I don't know what I want to do. I was like, hey, wait a minute, it doesn't actually. You don't have to know that there. We have this crazy idea where the world goes, hey, you need to know what you want to do, but nobody actually knows what they really want to do until way later. Because as you said, if we spoke to year 10 Lola and we're speaking to 15-year-old Lola, you would have changed dramatically. And if you haven't changed, then there's a problem, right? Then there's been no growth. So if you said to me today, hey, this is what drives Lola, and I was like, okay, this is who Lola is. Like, okay. And I ask you the same question in 10 years' time, it's the same. I was like, actually, Lola, you haven't grown. There's no growth there, right? And as you said before, you have gone through so many different experiences, and through those experiences, you're going to change. And I think what's important to realize is sometimes you can't be married to an idea because your ideas change as you learn about more about different things. And I realized that a long time ago. I was married to an idea. This is it. And then I was refusing to listen to what other people said. When I actually experienced, I was like, wait a minute, whoa, that was just an idea created by a belief or behavior that I was somehow ingrained in. So yes, it's pretty awesome that you go, I don't know, and that's okay. It's good to embrace
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it's good
I
to.
think, yeah, I'm also along the way, I'm gaining these skills and knowledge and industry connections that are going to be really important for when I find what it means to be Lola, and how that looks when I move into a career or whatever I do when I'm older. And so, yeah, it's not necessarily about having something that drives you straight away, but often just about, finding these different things you're interested in, and learning from people. And even if you don't always vibe with the like cleaning job that you have, that's fine, because you are learning to work with people, and learning to make beds, which could be helpful in your future. Things like that. Like it's not just about knowing what drives you as a young person, but also, yeah, kind of gaining things to help you find that.
Yeah, totally. And there's two drive and passion are two very different things. You could have a passion for something, but your drive comes later on, and it doesn't actually matter. And I love what you said. In everything that you do, you take away what am I learning? Like I said, when you if you have a cleaning job, what am I learning? Cool, I'm learning that I've got to be on time. I've got to be meticulous. I've got to be talking to other people. I'm working in a space, and then you might go, actually, I don't want to do this the rest of my life. What is my drive to my next step? So there's always learnings. But then that's
Definitely.
about your mindset, right? If your mindset is like, oh, this is just terrible, shitty, what am I doing here? Totally different to, hey, I'm at work here, got a job, let me get it going. But that's different, right? Everyone's different. There's no right or wrong way. It's just different.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's so different. And also, as we go forward, I noticed on your LinkedIn that you've also done some pretty cool things with some mediation training. Tell us about that there.
Oh, mediation training, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. So this is something I didn't really talk about, but Create Happy has its roots in non-violent communication, which is a way of communicating with people where you're not trying to argue, or necessarily change someone's perspective, but rather understand and totally accept that that's just how they feeling. So mediation training it's non-violent communication mediation, and so I did was it 3 days or 2 days? I think it was 3 days long, earlier this year, where I learned how to handle those situations and kind of navigate challenges with people, which is really important with Create Happy, because in terms of, we don't like have an HR department,
Yep.
like big companies do, but little things do come up sometimes, and so being able to manage that, so yeah, that was really a training for Create Happy, but yeah.
And I think it's like I said before, it's a skill for life. You are going to be meeting lots of people all the time, and there's going to be conflict all the time. And life is all about conflict, because just because you see a red apple, it doesn't mean the other person sees a red apple. And when you start disagreeing about that, until you go, actually, wait a minute, maybe they're colorblind, and they actually consider color red. So wait a minute, let's just stop right here for a second. But that's awareness, right? And it's a beautiful skill to have. Yeah, I do. I study and I practice neuro-linguistic programming, so this awareness of language is really profound for me. So I love the way you put it out in that way there. And so Lola, as we start thinking about what's happening next for Lola and for Create Happy, what's the next milestone? You've spoken of the podcast, but if we say to Lola / Create Happy in a year's time, if I was going to talk to you again, and I probably will, what would you have liked to have seen in a year's time, for not just for Create Happy, but for Lola as well? Give me we goal setting right here, crazy on
yeah.
that.
I love it, so amazing. So we'll start with Create Happy. So
Yes.
I have some big dreams for Create Happy, and not all are going to happen necessarily, but we want to go global, or at least kind of move into Australia and like the islands. So move Create Happy out. We also want to start our podcast. We want to print the magazine, grow our subscription base, grow our writer base, do like workshops and educational kind of things like that. Yeah, that's kind of in the next year where Create Happy is going. And looking forward to that. That'll be amazing. And for Lola, who knows? I don't. I think that Create Happy is going to be a huge part of my life for a long time. But in terms of where I'm going, I don't know. I have no clue. And I'm figuring it out. And I definitely, obviously, I have roots in youth activism and youth voice and amplifying that. So yeah, it would be interesting to see where that goes, but I have no plans, and I'm kind of open to anything. Yeah, just we'll see where it takes us.
Yeah, that was a trick question, because the answer was actually in the first bit there, where Create Happy, because at the moment that is part of your identity. This is who you are. So with where's Create Happy grows, Lola's going to grow. You know, as Create Happy starts to get into the global market / Australia, that's going to define what's going to happen with you. So it was a trick question. So yeah. Oops,
yeah,
my
no,
bad.
Create Happy is a huge part of who I am, and it's like I spend hours and hours on Create Happy every week, and so I think, you know, you can't have Create Happy without Lola. You can't have Lola without Create Happy at this point in time. So definitely, yeah, it's a really huge part of who I am.
That's very cool, and I'm pretty excited to see where you end up in a year's time. You know, I think the world. Are you? Is there any other place in the world that has a youth-run magazine? Do you know of any other examples out there?
There are a couple. So in New Zealand, we have had Tearaway, which is a youth-run magazine, but I think they're a bit of an older demographic, so kind of more hitting student and university ages. And yeah, I have seen a couple of things out there. I think there's one in America which is called the Eco Lit magazine. But yeah, other than that, Create Happy is kind of a new concept, and but you also I guess we are a follower of what has already happened, and you can't have a whole movement of youth voice without that first follower and first leader. So Create Happy is kind of that first follower, and we are kind of growing into more than a magazine, so it's kind of more a media platform. And there have been a couple of things around, but Create Happy is the only solely like dedicated to 10 to 20-year-olds really. Yeah, and so very youth focused, and run by youth for youth, not run by adults for youth. Yeah,
That's really cool, and I think it's cool because it's really defined. 10 to 20, this is it. You know, as you said before, you know, you start going to let's grow with the magazine. Now we got 20, 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds, 25-year-olds, and then, you know, just changes the whole dynamic and the whole vibe. Again, I'm just going to talk. You had a fantastic example there with the leader and a follower, and I'm sure that you've seen the crazy dancing person video on YouTube.
yeah.
Yes, yep. For our listeners who haven't heard about it, so if you YouTube crazy dancing fellow and whatever, don't know what it is, but I'll find it out. But basically, the premise is the guy there's a concert. One guy is dancing pretty crazy and it's awesome, and then nothing happens until another person jumps in, and then another person jumps in, and another person jumps in. But without the first follower, there would be no leader. So that is really cool that how you have said that there. I think that's such a great analogy for life. There's a leader, but there's no leader without a follower.
Definitely, yeah.
Yep. And some people think they're leaders, but they have no followers. They're just a person.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I love this great quote here. I love this great quote here where someone says people think they are leaders. They're leaders they're leading a movement, but they have no followers. They're just going for a walk.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for sure.
That's so crazy, right? That's so crazy.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. Lola, we've been speaking for almost 45 minutes, actually, an hour really, which is pretty cool. And I'm sure we can keep talking forever and ever because you're a really interesting human being. But I want you to enjoy your Saturday. So I'm going to ask you our final question. And our final question is one that we ask every single guest.
Okay.
Our podcast is called Baskets of Knowledge. And we would love Lola to give us a piece of knowledge to put into our basket as we go forward into our podcast. And this could come from any part of your life. It could come from your Create Happy, from your counselor, from life, anything that you want to put into the basket of knowledge. You can have two if you want.
Okay. I have lots, but I don't know where to start.
At the very beginning.
Don't begin something without hope. Without hope, you cannot move forward in life, and hope is a really big part of, I guess, life and society and humanity. And it is very essence of what makes us human, right? Hope, when you look at it in its many forms, whether it's faith-based or like spirituality-based, or just you're hopeful for the future. Hope has so much nuance in our lives, and I guess, yeah, don't move forward into anything unless you have hope. And if you don't have hope, search for it in the places where you can't see any. Hope is always there. It's not something to be discarded. And I definitely, I think that, I don't know. That's my bit of knowledge. I don't know if that made any sense, but yeah.
It made a lot of sense. I think, the power of hope cannot be underestimated. And the beauty of hope is it comes from you. You can find hope from somebody else, but then you create your own version of hope for yourself. So I really love that. And I think, in a world at the moment where we're always being told what to do and we feel like we're lost and we have nothing happening, like you said before, the minute you find hope, whatever that looks like, whether it's through faith, spirituality, whether it's through the word, whatever it is, whatever, a book, a saying, a poem, it's really, really powerful. Beautiful.
It's the very thing that we live and die for. And I guess without hope, there isn't humankind. In the end, all we're left is each other and our perception of paradise or things that we can hope for.
Beautiful. That is really, really beautiful. And as we think about this conversation, Create Happy started with the hope to get voices out there for the rangatahi and for the young people out there. And if that wasn't there, this wouldn't happen. So this, and also the hope from the right back the first of the conversation, the hope was to change the perception of what South Auckland was like. So, I think it goes around really beautifully. A great circular in from where we started to where we are at the moment. So beautiful. Lola, any last words before we wrap up the podcast? Anything you'd like to share? Anything that you'd like our listeners to? How can they find you? How can they get involved with you? I guess.
Yes, totally. So if you want to follow Create Happy's journey, you can find us at Create Happy Media on pretty much all social media platforms. Our main one at the moment is Instagram. If you want to follow my journey, my Instagram username is Lola Waimarie, or just search Lola Fisher. And our website is createhappy.org. Please, let us know if you have any suggestions or if you want to join us. We're really keen to have any young people on board, and anything you have to offer to us. Yeah.
And what about people to sponsor you? Are you looking for sponsors to help you out with that, or is it just?
Oh yes.
let's do a plug. Let's do a plug right here. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go. I can do this all day. It's my speciality. So if you are keen to advertise in Create Happy, our digital edition, we have advertising packs. You can reach out to us at hello@createhappy.org for that. And we are looking for sponsors at the moment to sponsor the magazine, whether that looks like, having your name on the front cover or something. Also our podcast. We are open to anything you have to offer, whether it is financial support or just industry knowledge or connections, or you have some knowledge to offer us. We are totally open to that. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And I think you need to embrace that, because I think to our listeners out there, whether you are based in New Zealand or Australia, wherever you're in the world, there's a young person around you. There might be your young person, there might be your neighbor, but young people whether you like it or not, because some people are pretty grumpy out there, whether you like it or not, young people around us. I think what Lola and Create Happy are trying to do here is something that's really profound, and it's got lots of legs to be really influential. So jump online, whether it's $5 or $50 or just a name. I think I'm pretty sure they'll be pretty happy with that there.
Yes.
Lola, thank you so much for jumping on. I've learned a lot about you as a person. I've learned a lot about Create Happy. I've learned about, you know, the drive, the passion, the hope. It's really, really beautiful. And also a shout out to your mentor, Mandy, for getting you on this year, because I think she has seen potential, and the potential is has reaped rewards thousands fold. So shout out to her as well. If she listens to this podcast, she might not. But thank you
I'll
for
make sure
your
I'll send it to her.
brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your wisdom. For our listeners out there, hopefully you have learned something today. If you have not learned something, like I always say, go back, listen again, because you have missed out. Till next time, till our next podcast, don't forget to put something in into your basket of knowledge. Till then, ka kite, take care. And if you're in New Zealand, hopefully you have voted. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Baskets of Knowledge.
Yeah, we hope that you found something useful to put into your basket of knowledge. And as we said before, remember to put something little into your baskets of knowledge every week. And as always, feel free to like, comment, and share this podcast. Thanks, everybody. Bye.